I always ask bands that put on a theatrical show and have big production, and there is no greater theatrical band than the early Alice Cooper band. So we're talking about The Snake, which was part of the stage show, and of course the rest of the stage show is legendary with the guillotine and that sort of thing. What was the biggest mishap on stage that you remember?
We call that a Spinal Tap moment.
Yes, tell us.
Where they had the Stonehenge come down. It was this big,
right?
But it's supposed to be 12 feet tall, not 12 inches. But we had there's probably several. I don't know how much time we have, but
as much as you allow.
one of the big ones was we had played. Because in our travels, especially in Canada, and being art majors as we were, we would run across a lot of very artistic, people and fans, and a lot of them would come up with ideas. Well, we had this one artist from Toronto, and he had the idea of it. If we played outside, to have this really gigantic pterodactyl right behind me on the drums, and we played. I think it was at Wrigley Field, out in the baseball field, mm-hmm. And so basically what it was like a giant hang glider that looked like a pterodactyl. It looked like something out of one of the Jurassic Park movies. Exactly what it looked like. But we kind of forgot one element, as that Chicago. What's their nickname?
The Windy
City. At any rate, this thing started moving and quivering, and it fell down on top of me. Oh. So that was a really, really bad. Nobody got hurt, but it was just incredibly embarrassing. The other one was probably the biggest one that was in front of an audience. Before we decided to go with the guillotine, if I'm not mistaken, it was on the early. It was either the $1 Billion Baby tour or the School's Out tour, but I think it was $1 Billion Babies. But we had the idea of a cannon, and taking the idea from a circus, shooting Alice out of a cannon. And I got to tell you, Alice is very, very, very sane. He seems crazy on stage, but he's very down to earth, very sane. The fact that he would get in this thing was amazing. So Warner Brothers Pops department made it. It was a bigger than life size cannon where Alice could actually get in the barrel and climb down. Meanwhile, this thing is cocked with this giant spring in there. And there was an escape hatch down there where Alice would go down there. But still, this thing is cocked. He would go down there, he would escape, they'd close it back up and put a dummy of Alice in there. Just exactly the way he's dressed and everything. And we did this at a test show outside of Detroit. We would do occasionally before we would actually take a big show on the road. And this could have been before the Killer show. But it was one of the shows. We tested it out, and when the part of the show that at the end, the finale, when Alice would come flying out of there and go across the stage. Well, if you ever took like a rag doll and you kind of they don't really throw like a paper plane or something, go straight. It kind of came out and just kind of like, it looked terrible. It was the stupidest thing we ever did.
Like a rag doll.
Yeah, it looked like a rag doll, but a really, really big one. And it wasn't cool. If it would have been like Spinal Tap cool, that's one thing, but this was just not cool.
Didn't have bones in it.
So, no, it was a boneless person. Yeah. It's like a boneless chicken, a boneless person. But so because we had 2 nights to work on this. So now, okay, you've got a big cannon, looks like a giant penis. What do? You take soap suds and you fill it up, and Alice goes up and he starts jerking off this giant cannon sitting on it, and the soap suds come out of and because we've used bubbles like the Lawrence Welk bubble machine so many times in our shows, it just kind of made sense. 2 kind of bad things with that. When all of this soap is coming out, it's going on the stage.
Oh, no.
And all of a sudden, the stage becomes as slippery as ice.
Yeah.
So between that and it just, again, it really, there was no way to really make it work with the song, whatever we were doing. And there's a few others, like when the trap door didn't open when Alice was being hung.
Yeah.
And that was he tries to jump up and down on it to break it. And I'm going, Alice, if you can't break it, it's a go. So I think it was just a premature. And then the lightning and the smoke all kind of, and then the skeleton was there hanging somewhere. But that was a pretty bad moment too. But the one with the soap suds just really, that cannon just lived in our house in Greenwich for a long time. And eventually ended up in a junkyard, but those were some of the ideas that we had that just there were more, but we actually had more that worked than that didn't. But it's like anything else, trial and error.
Yeah.